Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome y'all to the Big Dam. It's your boy, Bobby Hill. Happy to see y'all, hear from y'all today. Hope everything's going okay. Hope everything, hope your day is going well. I always say, hope you're one step closer to your dreams, your goals, whether they're long term or short term. Hope you're one step closer to them. As always, give a shout out to my lovely wife, Sandra Hill. She's the reason why I'm up here doing this, my rock. She's at work right now, doing her thing, holding it down, holding me down. We holding things down here, San Antonio. How we do it. But you know, thank y'all for having for being here with me today. I'd like to, thank y'all for allowing me to, you share my experiences and share my trials and tribulations and my successes in life. I'm glad that y'all you know, allow me to express myself. Yeah, I love the positive feedback, from I get from people when I ask, what am I doing? How am I doing? So it's, real good to hear that, what you're doing matters. People are actually listening to you. So, it feels good. It inspires me to do better. It inspires me to sit up here and, every week, every day I think about things, what to talk about, so, but people telling me that they like what I'm doing. Telling me that they see a bright future, or keep it up. That's just motivation. I just love it. And I hear the people that telling me that I might not, things I could do better. I need that balance. I just don't want to hear everybody telling me that, hey man, I love the, don't get me wrong, I love the compliments. I love people telling me I'm doing good, but I also want the ones that don't, that's not feeling me, because everybody ain't gonna feel you. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know what you don't like. I need to know that. I need to know everything. I need a well-rounded view when I make a decision, or when I choose how to deliver, or how to deliver my content. So I try to, I love all the opinions, good or bad. I'm sorry, I be scratching my nose, itching. I'm sorry. So sorry. You know. So, and like I said, it's in my last show yesterday, I was talking about what's the name, Stephen A. Smith, and I still I've been hearing a lot of things about him. About you know, I think one interesting point was by Jamel Hill. No relation, I don't think. Maybe, I don't know. You go back further, we all cousins somewhere, like Pac say. We all family. But a report by I listened to Jamel Hill talk about how she gave him props for the things that he did for the black community, as far as HBCUs, having black producers on the show, and giving voice to, giving, black, young black talent a platform on his show to express themselves, and I give him props. He did do all that, but sometimes it's not about the action. It's about the intention. Like, why did you do that? Did you do that because you really want to help, or did you want to do that because in situations like this you want to, try to pop your collar with it, man? It's like, see what I've done for y'all. Why y'all sitting up here not liking me? Who cares? I done said this about this. Look what I've done over here. You can't, you can't sit up here and pick and choose. You got to, if you want all the credit, you got to take all the criticism. He don't like when he getting criticized. You know. Give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry. Well, what I was doing right there was exactly what I want to talk about today. Talking about, it- I have yesterday. I don't want to talk about Steve anymore. I don't care about. He got too much. He don't need that much time on my show anymore. I don't care about that. But yesterday, man, a couple of days ago, I got a call from my daughter, my youngest daughter, that she wanted to come and stay with me in Texas. And like I said, I told her that she made me very happy. I was very supportive, telling her to come on, you know, and she was concerned about, she's never flown before, and she's concerned about the plane and because she did come to Texas before, but the last time I was driving truck, so I was able to pick her up, and I drove her. I drove her here, so that was a different experience. So and when the only obstacle she had left was she had to tell her mom, tell her mother, and things went as the way I expected, and mother reacted in a negative way. Got just very, I say very selfish, because she's one of the people that would rather she'd be okay if Victoria stayed with her until the day she passed away. She don't want she wants her daughter with her, all the time, and she don't and our daughter does not want to be there no more. She wants to, not that she don't want, not like she don't want to be like her daughter. It's that she don't want to be living in the town that she lives in no more. She lives in my hometown now. She lives in Clinton, North Carolina, and she don't want to be there no more. And she don't want to. She wants to. She already been places in life. She done been a few places. She done experienced a few things. She knows the world is bigger than the confines of Clinton, North Carolina, and she wants to come. I told her to come with me, come over here with me, and I will help her find herself, find what path she want to live in life or what she want to do. I said there are a lot of opportunities here. And I told her from day one I would help her get a job, help her. She said she don't want to go to a university. I said I understand that, but I said but there are other ways to find a path without going to a university. There are other schools, other classes. I told her the main thing is just to get something that you're certified. Something that you have to earn a piece of paper to get. So that means no one can take it away from you. That means you got job security. You can get a job, and think about getting going into a field where it's sort of safe for now, safe from technology. Like the healthcare. I try to tell, hopefully, tell my wife and get her a job. So I was very, supportive of her coming here, and very, she's lovely. She's coming, but she knew that she was going to have to go through this, and with her mom, and she did, and mom very negative. Of course, she threw dirt on me, and I'm the, of course, I'm always the fallout with everybody. All my, fallouts and all my failures in relationships, in my life. I'm always the fall guy. I'm the bad guy. I'm used to that. You know, feel like Tony Montana. Never been another bad guy like me. So, but man, it's okay. It's okay to be there. I mean, it's all right. So, but she didn't fall for that. And I told her that because she prepared for that. And I told her, don't let that distract you from what you need to do in life. Don't let that distract you from your goal. You know, so your mom being selfish, let her act out, let her lash out, but don't. I try to tell her, like, not to be disrespectful. She said she might have did something, said something disrespectful. I said it's okay. I said you were angry. Somebody lashing out at you. It don't matter who it is. You gonna lash back. Your human nature is to defend yourself. It's human nature. Somebody keep on talking to you like that, you're gonna lash out. Anybody. But I told her when things die down, when things calm down, and cooler heads prevail, apologize. I said, even if you feel like she don't deserve an apology, apologize anyway, because you have to be the bigger person. Don't resort to the other person's tactics. You be the bigger person to show them. I don't care what you say to me. You still ain't gonna change who I am. I'm still who I am. You ain't gonna phase me. You ain't gonna put a crack in my armor because of your negativity. So, and I talked to her today, and she's still happy to come. It's gonna take a little while. It's gonna take a few months, but we working on it. It's in transition. We just gonna take a minute. So, but she's on her. Hopefully she's on her way. Hopefully things run smoothly, and hopefully give me a chance to be. I'm off the road. I don't drive trucks anymore. They give me a chance to be a father. Never too late. As long as you're alive, you got kids, you're always a parent. You're always a parent. Always. It don't stop when they turn 18. Sometimes it just begins when they turn 18. So, I know I was there before I drove trucks, I was there for her every day until 15. So she was like 8, 9, somewhere like that. But she was at elementary school, and I went to, I'm always happy. I go by that, and I'm an Outkast fan. I love Outkast, one of the greatest groups of all time. And that song, one of the verses, I think in the song, Mr. Jackson, I think it was Big Boy. I want to think. Don't forgive me for wrong. Like I said, I don't like going up to Google and looking up stuff. I'm trying to recall it in my mind. I think it was Big Boy who said that, yeah, I will be there at the first day of school and graduation. And I always thought about them verses, and I thought about I was never be only child I was able to be there first day of school was I went there first day of school. I was there in kindergarten was Elijah, but Victoria I was able to be there first day of school, and I was able to be there for graduation. So I hold that dear in my heart, and I wasn't able to. I was able to be for half a year in her high school. That I was able to be there, like there physically with her. So it's good that now that she's asking me, leaning on me to help her find a way in life, and I take so much pride in that because having 4 children and three of them, your first three, not you know, I can't say who whatever. I'm not playing the blame game. It don't matter who fault. It don't matter. I don't care. That's irrelevant right now. But the fact that our relationships are sort of like distant. I don't say there's not. I don't say there's. I mean, from my point, hey, I love my kids. I love all three of my kids. I love my, first my three older kids just as much as I love my youngest child. You know, but they don't. I don't know. They see it or they don't. I don't know. Just I don't. It's just a tough situation, and I hope every day they will get better. But until the day it get better, I just have to play the cards that I'm dealt. And right now, I'm dealt with my youngest wanting to come be with me, and I can, help, shape her and mold her as a young woman. And my wife can, assist in that. She can show her, give her that, closeness and, you know, woman knowledge that she needs, that she has been lacking. They say she didn't have any, but the essential, knowledge of women coming up in the world that women can get from a woman, just like the things about a man being a man that boys and young boys need to get from a man. That's what she can get from my wife. You know, that's the same. Going back the same. I was just on the phone. The same thing I doing with her son. Man, our son, my stepson. I don't know about step. Our son. I'm trying to. Man, it's hard. It's tough. Don't get me wrong. It's tough. It's tough. We done. Say rough, but we done had little speed bumps and stuff. I say we had little speed bumps in our relationship, but we good. And I always I'm the older one. I guess according to them, I'm the old man. That's one thing now I had to get used to, being the oldest person in the room. And man, that's something to get used to, you know. So they me, I just try to understand, like, this kid is young, he didn't have his father is alive, his father's around, but he's never, had his father in his life that day to day to mold him and shape him to be a young man and stuff. So he sort of suffered for it. It's been just him and his mom, and he's leaned on his mom a lot. So, how that goes, for good or for bad. He leaned on his mom a lot. So, and I'm trying to get him to, trying to give him knowledge, give him game about becoming a young man in this world, and things you have to do, the essential things you have to do that you weren't taught. It's not your fault that you weren't taught, but certain things you need to know, and certain things you might agree or don't agree with. But what I'm telling you is real. Like I said, I don't tell them anything that's wrong. I don't tell them anything that's going to hurt them. I tell them all the time, I don't tell you anything that's going to hurt you. I don't tell you anything that's going to get you locked up, killed, or nothing like that. I don't tell you stuff to protect you. And certain things you need to do, like hold your head up here. You got to speak up. Don't sit up here and hide behind people. You tall. He the tallest one in the house. He the youngest and the tallest. And boy taller than me, I'm 6'1". That boy, he's 6'2", one on 6'3", and 16. He about to be 17. But yeah, but he's coming around. He's coming around. He's helping him get his license. He got his permit, and he's trying to get his license. I'm trying to give him a little responsibility, letting him drive a little bit. Trying to ease him into it, because these streets out here ain't no joke out here. Now they got self-driving cars and everything, so you got to be careful out here in these streets. So it's hard. It's nerve-wracking, because I ain't never experienced this like this before, having to let kids drive and stuff. But I was always the kid that wanted the car. I was never the one letting someone get the car. So that's a new thing. So, and me being a truck driver, seeing all these dangers out here in the road, I done seen all the accidents. I've seen trucks flip, cars flip, trailers rolled over, burnt, cars burnt. I've seen every kind of, almost not every kind of accident, because there's always new ways to get an accident out here in the road. But I done seen a lot, out here, and having all that knowledge and seeing, plus, riding around here locally, seeing how people drive, but it just, sometimes that takes over, and you be like sort of timid, like, no, I don't want to do that. But you got to understand that, for these kids, for people to learn, they have to have their feet in the fire. They have to go out there and experience the dangers. Like I say, you put restraints on them. I tell him he can go take his girlfriend to work or go pick up his mom, and then come back. I don't tell him he can go out here for hours and drive. Nah, just let him witness it, like spoon feed him, and then as a while, he gets better, then we can talk. So responsibility, everything, responsibility and trust. So yeah, so that is, for me, it's good, because I feel like I got a chance to be, because I always felt like being a father was, I feel like being a parent, a father, the greatest job in the world. You don't get no benefit, man. You don't get paid for it. The benefits ain't the best, but it's a great job in the world. And I felt like that was good away from me. So now, I feel like in life, whatever higher power, God, God, gave me another chance at being a father, and I'm taking advantage of it. Like I said, it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard. Especially, but just because you didn't create a person don't mean you're not. Don't mean you're not their parent. You always, because I couldn't sit back as a man and sit here and watch it. If I love his mother, I married her and made her my wife. if I love her, I can't sit back and watch her kid go down the wrong path and not do anything or not try to, lead them back in the right path, because that means I wouldn't really love her if I allowed him to do that. And I knew I could help him out and I chose not to. That would be, that wouldn't, excuse me, that wouldn't be me honoring my wife. So, trying to get him to um, learn how to survive without her, because one day we all, tell them it's a reality. One day we ain't be here, so you got to learn how to navigate in this world. So I'm trying to, give him tools to help him, get through here. But there's certain things you have to get through himself, because this world, just like all of us, we'll learn at the same time, because there are a lot of things changing in here. So I'm trying to get them to, to be aware, be smart, be you try to, be self-sufficient. He got a girlfriend, trying to teach him how to, be a good boyfriend, be in his relationship, how to listen, try not to be something I have to learn. Like, and I try to tell him too, because he's tall, he's 6'1". It's something I had to learn. And my younger sister told me this, and I didn't really think about it throughout my life in general until she told me. She was like, when you come in here, you like an opposing figure. Like, when you come in the room, like, you don't have to say nothing. Everybody can have their back turned. I said, but you walk in the room, you can know you're in the room, because I don't know. So you could sense you the opposing figure and stuff. You're like, so if like you just talking to somebody and you standing up over somebody or whatever, that could be intimidating, even though you're not saying anything intimidating to the person, or you're not being intimidating or threatening or anything. Your actual presence can be like intimidating. So I never thought about that in life, So as I got older, I be mindful of that, and I tell him too. Like, you get mad, try to be mindful about how getting excited, especially out here in public, man. Don't try not to be excited and loud, because all they're gonna see is the tall guy being loud. You're gonna bring attention to yourself. Sometimes it's unwanted attentions. So I try to, tell them that. Just try to be, thoughtful. Think about things. Learn how to think. Don't react so quick. Especially as a man out here, sometimes reacting too quick could be leaving you in dire straits, bad consequences for reacting and not thinking. Sometimes you just learn people by you. So you learn about people and situations. Sometimes not by talking, not by asking all the questions. Sometimes just sit back and watch people. Sit back and watch people. People who like to talk, let them talk, and listen to what they have to say, and believe. If they show you how they show you how they are, you believe them. You don't try to figure. You don't try to be a psychologist and try to figure people out. They show you who they are. That's who you believe. That's what you go off of. So, like I said, whether he takes the advice or not, I don't do whatever. But he can't say he wasn't told. But yeah, I try to help him out. I try to help young kid out, man. He's into working out. He work out a little bit. Oh, he was on the swimming team last year. This year he's working. He's in 11th grade, trying to get through that. Already getting good reports from the teacher, having a good start of the school year. So everything's looking good. Trying to, it's trying to get him through high school. That's all. I'm pretty sure, and I know it is, a little bit, probably a lot more challenging this shit in school now than it was when we was in school. And I'm pretty sure that the people in their 70s and 80s say the same thing about us when we was in high school. But there are a lot of challenges in school, man, especially now. It's just, especially you got these phones and all this technology and stuff. It's just so much going on. So then to navigate through all this, and then you got the individual people, people around here, and guidelines and standards have changed for the youth around here. So you got all of that. So, I mean, I salute the kids that can get through all of that and still, you know, maintain their confidence and, their self-esteem and, be able to, excel. I salute them. There's a lot going on. Just imagine, boy, we had anything that was just one thing. If we could take cell phones and take them back, take them back to the when we was growing up. Oh my God, it'll be a lot of good things, but it'll be just as much bad. It's just as much bad things going on. Yeah, that's one thing. Like people in our generation and a little bit, a little bit younger than us, and that's what our generation can hold our heads about. We can talk about things growing up and stuff, but you know why? Because it's not recorded. We can choose not to talk about it, but it wasn't. If you didn't see it, it wasn't. It didn't happen. So now everything's recorded, so you can't hide from anything now. So imagine people like that we was growing up. Oh my God. Oh my God. But yes, I like the but except with him, it's refreshing. But still, even with that, sometimes I feel there's a part of me. I can't lie. There's a part of me feel like I'm betraying my son, my my oldest son, my oldest child. Because I'm giving this and giving him all this knowledge, that I couldn't give him because of, I don't want to go out and talk about that before. I don't want to go into that, but I wasn't able to, provide him with the knowledge, of becoming a young man, so in that, trust, I think about it every day. Every time I say something to him, every time I give him a little kernel of knowledge, I think about, man, I wish I could have gave my son this, at this age. But you can't change the past. You can't, all you can do is learn from it. So, hopefully, I get my daughter here, I'll be able to, you know, help her. And what I really want to help her with is understand like the dangers in this world, and still be able to protect yourself, but still, don't let that prevent you from trying to excel and achieve in this world. But make sure you protect yourself and keep your eye open and don't fall for, don't do that. Keep your eyes open. Be smart. You know, I'm teach you how to protect yourself, defend yourself. You know, don't trust, don't be all trustworthy. Don't be naive. Anything. I'm gonna give her a game, and she, daddy's little girl gonna be daddy's grown woman. Believe that. But yeah, we have a beautiful time up here, man. We want to show her, the beauty here in San Antonio. A lot of places to go, a lot of things to do. Trying to, I know it's hard. I live 1,000 miles away from where I grew up at. People that were in my life, in my circle, who I grew up with, they're 1,000 miles. Most of them are 1,000 miles away from me, man. So it's hard to get, especially now with flights being so expensive. It's hard to everything being so expensive. It's just hard to get up and move like that. So I'm realistic, but one day I will figure it, man. With somebody, one of my boys can come up here for a weekend. Oh my God, let's just have fun. It's a nice city up here. It's a nice city, beautiful, beautiful. It's a lot of culture up here, a lot of different cultures up here, a lot of different people, a lot of different things to do. Just it's very nice. It's not far from other places. It's not far from Austin. It's not that far. I mean, we don't go to Houston, but it's not that far from Houston. About the same, a little bit further to Dallas, but it still is not impossible. About three and a half, 4 hours to Dallas, about an hour and a half to Austin, probably about 3 hours to Houston. So it's not, there's a lot of things to do. It's very, I tell my wife every day, I love being here with you. I'm glad I'm not here and don't have any direction or don't in my personal life. It's out here, you know, with no with nobody. I'm glad I'm not out here like that. I'm glad I got her so I can experience San Antonio in the way I was supposed to experience, like a grown man, not a out here trying to go to club hopping and all. I don't get into all that. So I'm glad that things are the way they are as far as that's concerned. I hope as the future goes, I can bring more of my children here. And even if I don't expect them to come stay, but if I can get to a point where they can come visit, and we can have maybe one. I don't care if it's once a year. I'm not greedy. Like I said, I'm not a greedy person. I understand people have lives, so if they can give me one, a little bit at a time, 365 days, they can give me three of them, I'll be happy. So that's how it goes. That's that's what it is. That's what I go with. It's challenges I go with from being a father. And I don't even want to talk about. I was talking to my wife today, and I was telling her that I'm like, every day I'm like, people don't understand like what I'm not say. I don't say this to say like boo hoo, look at my situation, boo hoo, whatever. I say this to say if I could, if somebody can look at my situation, maybe they're going through something similar. Maybe they can get some knowledge or maybe they can gain some inspiration. Like, damn, he got through that. Maybe I can get through that. And that's the reason why I say stuff, what I tell people about situations, man. So, you know, I said, damn, I'm in a unique situation, man. I go through, what I'm going through with my children, me having trying a relationship with my children. And also I'm going through it is, my father, don't want to, don't give a damn. When I met him one time, he, didn't give a damn about me and walked away and never seen him again, never heard from him again, So it's a unique situation getting it from both sides, fatherhood from the father perspective and the son perspective. So, and even with that, even with things being challenging as they are, I still, you know, don't let that, break me. Don't let that define who I am. I just know I have the blueprint for what type of father I don't want to be. By growing up and see. So I use that as inspiration. And I try to make sure that hopefully I'll be able to talk to my oldest, get that, get our communication, where it's supposed to be, so I can at least, help him because he's a father. Yes, I'm a grandfather. So and I've met my grandson, a few times when he was an infant. I haven't seen him in a long time, so it just, that's what happens in life, and hopefully things will get better. But I can't. Like I said, can't sit here and sit in the corner and cry with spilled milk. I just move forward and hopefully things will come around. I try. Things work out. If they don't, then I try. I can't make other people do things. I can only control my actions. I can give you advice. I can help you, give you the tools, but ultimately you make the decision. So right now, this is where we at, but future's always changing. So you never know. Hopefully, things will get better. Hopefully, I get my baby girl and my daughter here. We can, get her, on a path. She's not on a bad path. I mean, she's working and stuff, but there's a limit in Clinton. Clinton, there's a limit. I don't care. Some people get mad because I talk about Clinton. I talk about North Carolina, like I never abandoned North Carolina, but I can tell the truth about North Carolina. Because someone got mad because I talked about they ain't have no damn like the beaches in North Carolina. They don't. All the beaches are private, fishing, residential, or something. It's nothing between. If people get mad, I say I don't care. Look between Virginia Beach and Myrtle Beach and tell me where you will go for entertainment. Period. Between Virginia Beach and Myrtle Beach, somewhere in between there, where you gonna go? If you're not going to go surf, if you're not going to go fishing, where you gonna go? You going there to get go to some sort of entertainment, like that's in Virginia Beach or Myrtle Beach. If you gonna try to find that type of entertainment anywhere between them two in North Carolina, if there is one, where is it? I want to see that. I just said there isn't one that was speaking the truth, and people got their feelings. Oh, whatever. I done been to other beaches. I ain't been to Florida beaches. Done been to no, been to California beach. No, plus, so it's been down here to Texas beaches. You know, and I've been to North Carolina beaches. I haven't been to South Carolina. Been to Myrtle Beach. I haven't been to. Did I go to Virginia Beach? No. I don't think I have been to Virginia Beach. No, no, I haven't. But yeah, I've been a lot of beach. I've been to a few little beaches, and they've been all been, better than where I grew up at, and that's a fact. And whatever people don't like it, I don't care. Tell the state government to buy to put things on the beach. Tell you goddamn movie stars and stuff living out there, Figure Eight Island, and I hear they got all this but no entertainment. That's crazy. They don't have nothing, no music. I mean, I understand they got hurricanes to come, but I'm saying all they have is old broke down Jubilee Park. And that's all it's and it's gone. I don't know if it's still there or not. I ain't been there so long. I don't know if it's there or not. So whatever. All they got is Burt's Donuts. Oh, but that's enough of them too. I don't feel like bashing. I ain't, I don't want to be called me saying I'm bashing my hometown. So whatever. I ain't gonna get into them. But I give a shout out to all my peeps in Clinton though. All my peeps holding it down. That daily grind. Shout out. Shout out to a man live. He up there every day. My man, day one. Shout out to my man Sugar Bear. Know he holding it down. One of the realest brothers I've ever known, man. Grown man. Sugar Bear. Shout out to him. Let me give some shout outs to them. Shout out to my man Banks. Shout out to my man Jazz. Shout out to my man Beans. Finally, shout out to my man Daryl, Buck. Shout out to ooh, shoot, man, they so dang on minute, man. I'll be here all day. Shout out to my fam at Fisher Drive. Out here balling at Fisher Drive. If we ball together, shout out to you. Shout out to the block, Royal Lane, everywhere we used to ball at. Furrow Street, the legendary Furrow Street Park. Shout out to all them, man. Shout out to all my peeps. We used to ball. It's too many to name. I don't got time to name everybody, but you know who you are. We done ball together. We done we done damn wrestled on the court and bumped, played on the same team and played against each other and about fought each other, probably then fought each other and all that, all that, all love, all that shaped who we are today. The great, who we are, our greatness, how our personality, all shaped by everything we done went through. So, people tell you, people like, I wish I could change. No, you don't want to change nothing. Because you change that, you change who you are. Go through what you go through to be who you are. So, with that being said, thank y'all for being here with me today. Have a good time today. I like talking to y'all about, being stuff like that. This did in my heart, man. I like, doing that, man, because I'm not, not afraid to sit up here and talk about what I'm going through. Like I said, if I can share my experience and it can help somebody, I'm all willing to do it. I'm all willing to helping whoever, man, because we all got to help each other in this world, man. It's hard out here, man. It's hard out here, man. These people don't care whether you, live or die. Don't care whether you eat or not, man. They don't care whether you go to work or not. They don't care, man. They don't care if you go to work. They replace your ass with a robot, man. They don't care. So look, man. So look, man. Just like I said, man. Everybody just show some, show love out here, man. Just help each other. Help each other. You know, because that's how, whatever we got going on in this country, whatever we got going on about, like I said, the haves and the have-nots. The have-nots, how you gonna come up together? Stop being at each other's throat, man. Stop. We got to come together, man. Stop being at each other's throats. We all in the same boat. Because we got different skin color don't mean, we all got the same damn high ass light bill. Okay, what color your skin is? I don't. Them damn bananas still about high as hell. Them eggs still high. So yeah, we all got the same problem, man. We got, come together. All this division, man. We got to stop letting these rich people divide us because they don't give a damn. They getting paid off our division, so we got to stop, letting these people divide us. We got to come together and come as one and just thrive, man. So that positive note, I like to thank y'all for being here with me. I love all of y'all. Hope y'all have a great evening. I'll be here with y'all Friday. Like I always say, kiss your kids, kiss your loved ones, tell them how you feel, tell them you love them, because you never know where things going. That might not get a chance again. Love all of y'all. Y'all have a good evening.